You see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together.
That's right.
During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people always have been conservative-minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then HEW, Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are.
First thing to think about here, Byron Donalds is a politician looking to be Donald Trump's running mate. So everything he says and does publicly is to put himself in a better position to be chosen. Keep that in mind when listening to him paint this picture of the Jim Crow era as something that facilitated a better time for black Americans and the pushback that he expected to get from black folks.
Mr. Speaker, it has come to my attention that a so-called leader has made the factually inaccurate statement that black folks were better off during Jim Crow. That's an outlandish, outrageous, and out-of-pocket observation. We were not better off when a young boy named Emmett Till could be brutally murdered without consequence because of Jim Crow. We were not better off when black women could be sexually assaulted without consequence because of Jim Crow. We were not better off when people could be systematically lynched without consequence because of Jim Crow. We were not better off when children could be denied a high-quality education without consequence because of Jim Crow. We were not better off when people could be denied the right to vote without consequence because of Jim Crow. How dare you make such an ignorant observation? You better check yourself before you wreck yourself.
We could have done without the 90s hip-hop reference from Hakeem Jeffries, but his point still stands. And since the Biden social media team posted that moment from Byron Donalds, he made sure to check them by saying, number one, you lied. I never said better. Number two, don't clip my words. Play the whole thing. Let me help you.
I grew up with my mom. My dad and my mom, things didn't work out. As an adult, I look at my father and I say, bro, I don't know what happened, but you my father and I love you.
Wow.
I don't know what happened. I wasn't there.
Wow.
But I'm gonna tell you this, growing up, the one thing I knew I wanted to do, and this is not about my father, this is about what I wanted to do, is I wanted to be a father to myself.
Wow.
And so one of the things that's actually happening in our culture, which you're now starting to see in our politics, is the reinvigoration of black families with younger black men and black women. And that is also helping to breed the revival of a black middle class in America. You see, during Jim Crow, the black family was together.
That's right.
During Jim Crow, more black people were not just conservative, because black people always have been conservative-minded, but more black people voted conservatively. And then HEW, Lyndon Johnson, and then you go down that road, and now we are where we are. What's happened in America the last 10 years, and I say it because it's my contemporaries, it's Wesley's contemporaries, you're starting to see more black people be married in homes, raising kids. It's when you home with your wife raising your kids, and then you look at the world, you're saying, now wait a minute, time out. This does not look right. How can I get something to my kids? It goes back to the conversation of generational wealth. Not just having a job, generational wealth. I'm looking at my kids. How can my kids be on my shoulders when they take off in life? That's what's happening.
So since Representative Donalds wanted everything he said to be included, here's a few things to address. Because again, he said all this publicly at a Donald Trump campaign event to advance his chances of being picked as a running mate. So he said, what you're starting to see in our politics is the reinvigoration of the black family, which acknowledges that some black families have been fractured in the past, and some still are, which is something any black American has issues with. But Donalds immediately mentioned how the black family was together during Jim Crow, causing people to connect that togetherness to the Jim Crow era. I mean, why else would he bring it up? He brought it up and claimed more black people voted conservatively, which doesn't really make any sense because Jim Crow laws were designed to make sure that black people didn't vote at all. But besides that omission of fact, which is actually a huge omission, He's claiming that that era of protests produced black Americans that he suggests voted conservatively, which would be against the reforms that would provide those rights. He never applied any negativity to Jim Crow laws that disenfranchised black people in the ways that Hakeem Jeffries highlighted. He did go on to say, and then H.E.W., Lyndon Johnson, and then we go down that road where we are right now. Where are we? Because Republicans for decades have been saying that we as black people are lazy, refuse to work, commit most of the crimes, and abandon our families because modern Democrats have fooled us to vote for them simply because they provide us with government assistance. That's why Byron quickly brought up HEW, which was the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. But now, he's seeing more black people getting married, having and raising their kids, even having the opportunity to set our kids up with generational wealth, which all black people are in favor of. His point appears to be that black folks have a better opportunity at this kind of progress if they go back to voting conservatively, like he claims they did during Jim Crow. There just seems to be a disconnect in his thinking about the legislative changes that fought back against standard conservative policies like redlining, employment discrimination, and over-policing. Ironically, issues that they were still fighting today, where our opponents continue to be conservatives that deny systemic racism ever existed and that it still exists today.
Bloomberg is done only because he decided to run as a Democrat. And unfortunately, the one thing that you are not allowed to do is talk about the truth if you are deciding to run as a Democrat. They left out the part that he talked about father absence as being a #1 contributor to the reason why Latinos and black Americans cannot contribute to the workforce or be as effective because they don't have the right preparedness in the workforce. The good racist, the best racist on the left, by the way, is Bernie Sanders, because he pretends to be their friend. He lies to black Americans face when he knows he is going to be the one, like Lyndon Baines Johnson, he's Lyndon Baines Johnson 2.0, who is going to enact policies that are going to harm black America for the next 100 years. But he smiles in their face and he takes the bait.
Black conservatives, when they have the audacity to think for themselves and become educated about our history and the myth of things like the Southern switch and the Southern strategy, which never happened.
There's a usefulness in being the black person in the room that co-signs the beliefs that reinforce white supremacy and shield it from criticism. It's how it's allowed to continue to thrive, by hiding in plain sight. But since Representative Donalds knew many people would respond with outrage, he figured he gets the cherry on top of looking like a maverick black Republican that's different in the eyes of the guy he's looking to impress, Donald Trump.
And then you have individuals like him, who are seeking to self-benefit based on a false narrative. During Jim Crow, majority of black people who lived in the South couldn't even participate and vote because of Jim Crow laws. So here we are now, someone seeking to be a VP nominee, trying to capture national headlines, tap dancing, so to speak, just so he can be considered.
So he went on CNN to have the service debate about using the term Jim Crow over and over again, to deny he was reminiscing, but refusing to explain why he used it, so that he could continue to play the victim.
Nobody ever made nostalgia. That was never the point. It wasn't even about that. So where now I'm gonna get my backup is, I didn't say that. I didn't even insinuate that. That is where the media and yes, Hakeem Jeffries and a lot of other people are taking
what exactly didn't you
insinuate?
insinuate?
No, back up.
I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. What didn't you insinuate?
The premise of your question, I did not insinuate. That is what people are trying to weave into what I said. What I said is crystal clear. It's on my social media. What you are dealing with right now is a political environment where now anything I might say or any major surrogate might say is going to be twisted into the lens of race. That was never the point, not the idea whatsoever.
Just to clarify my questioning of you,
Sure.
I understand that this idea that you said it was better, you didn't use the words better. But when you talk about that time period, you're suggesting that because the black family was together, they were better off than they are now.
See, this is the problem, Abby.
So are you saying that that's not the case? That the black family was not better off when they were, in your words, together?
Abby, let me put it to you like this.
In the Jim Crow era.
Let's agree on something. I am, obviously one of the better communicators in the Republican Party. I know how to put words together. I do it very, very often. So I'm not going to say something that I do not agree with. What America is seeing right now, especially Black America, is the gaslighting that unfortunately does happen in politics, where you take my comments and you want to weave your own political viewpoint into what I said.
He successfully made the discussion about being done wrong by media and the Democratic Party. but still never explained what he did mean. He simply denied longing for Jim Crow and kept saying to watch the whole thing, because the less he explains, the more is left up to interpretation from those mean old black Democrats, all the way down to supportive racists that tend to blurt out the same sentiments without putting the words together as strategically as Donalds did.
Candace Owens said the Civil Rights Bill was the worst thing to happen because it didn't give you the incentive to work. And 67% or something to that effect had whole families. Now it's only like 25%.
Of who?
Of the black race. But they don't give them an incentive to work. And I know absolute power corrupts absolute. They want power. They want power. They want you to tell you what to drive, tell you what to eat, tell you what to do. And you got to do, in freedom, absolute freedom, you got to have responsibility to get up.